one of 5 District 3 candidates that ran in the race in the midterm this past week and is currently down 13 votes total out of about 30,000 votes. As you might imagine, there's going to be a recount in accordance with state statute, but there's a lot of stuff up in the air right now in between everything from provisional ballots to hand recount to under and over counts. So I guess the first question I gotta ask you is, Keri, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. You got to trust the process. And if I've learned anything in this political race, there's a lot of processes. So this District 3 race has not been easy. So why would I think election night and going through this process would be any easier? Let's just keep the battle going.
So what was your first thought when you saw I would say the final round of numbers that came out on Tuesday night that had you down just 13 votes, which is like within the margin of the margin of the margin of error?
Yeah, so not to be a total nerd, but it's 0.00009, 4 zeros and then a 9%. It's about one thousandth, 1/10,000th of a percent. So yeah, so what my first thought was is that every vote counts. That afternoon, I was eating at Desi's. A lady behind me saw my name tag and said, "Oh, I'm not voting in the local election because it doesn't make a difference." We had a conversation, and later that afternoon, I was waving over at the Baker Area Arena, and she drove in and waved at me, and she stopped on her way out. She said, "I went in and I voted just for you. Thanks for encouraging me to vote." And as that 13th number came in, I thought, I know where one of those votes came from. So every vote counts, and I'm hoping people really pay attention to that, moving forward.
So what do the next couple of days look like for you? What are you doing? What does the recount situation look like on your end?
Right. So the first call I got from Paul Lux was this morning around 8 a.m., and he called to inform me of how the process works. He and I met last week prior to the Tuesday election, and he explained to me because I had a lot of questions. And he said, look, Tuesday night is what I call unofficial. It is a big picture. And if there's a big gap, then people can call races. If there's a small gap, they cannot. And he made sure to reiterate that night. I think you were there streaming live. 13 is something that can easily sway. And so, and you can win in Okaloosa County by 1 point. And so it's really important to realize that they're going to be reading tonight at 4 o'clock. They meet. By 4:30, 5 o'clock, we should hear what they consider their final count. And that could sway either direction. And so we're just going to wait and hear what that is. Based on Florida state law, he said, if you're under 0.5%, which we will be regardless of what comes out tonight, they will issue the recount. The recount is a mandatory machine recount. And because we're even lower than that 0.5%, there will also be triggered the physical recount. He let me know that I was allowed to have people present in the room, representatives or myself or a team, and that we'll be able to physically count them as well. And so we will be taking him up on that right just to exercise our right of freedom to make sure that we feel everything is good. We don't anticipate to challenge anything, but we do want to make sure that every vote is counted properly.
Yeah, so that's one of the things I'm sure that you get asked pretty frequently when you're in this position is like, are you going to challenge these results? But it doesn't sound like you're worried about like any like chicanery or anything like that.
I really think that in our legal system, I want to be, I bleed red, white, and blue. We got to believe in the process, but I do feel like we need to exercise our rights to the fullest amount. And our exercise in that would be going through all of this, the results tonight, the recounts, the hand recounts. And I was under the impression that we have never changed in Okaloosa County a recount number, but Paul corrected me this morning and said that's not true. The last recount that was audited was a 3-person, somebody got 3 points and one person got 2. And so, I guess there is still a hope if there's a small gap. But I think tonight we'll know probably where we probably stand. And I'm very proud of everyone who has supported me along the way in the last 4.5 months. So I'm not looking to burn any houses down. Just move forward and continue to support the community.
Speaking of that, this is your first candidacy for anything ever, right? And
yeah.
What did you think of the whole process?
Learning curve. Someone reached out to me with a list of questions that they were going to determine who they were voting for on. And one of the questions caught me off guard. It said, if you had to name this chapter in your life, what would you name it? And this was a couple weeks ago. And so I thought about it, and then I responded, and I told her it would be called Buckle Up, because you have no idea what bump you're about to hit. And I found that really humorous the night of the election. I thought, all right, well, we're still buckled up. We're still riding this thing out. And so I've met a lot of incredible people. I have learned a lot of things. I approached my campaign as a business. My business was to get votes, and I worked really hard to get out there. I have to say I'm pretty proud of myself in a 5-person race coming down to this tiny bit of a percentage. I think a lot of the community did not see these two opponents being the last two. And so, I think it's always interesting how politics plays out. I do wish that we had more than a 24%, 44% turnout. I do hope that in the future people get more involved.
Right on.
Yeah.
And those are really all my questions. Is there anything that you want to tell the community, either about this race or about yourself, or any of these situations that we're looking at right now over the next couple of days?
Yeah, I think as we're in this lingo, some people think that the race has been determined. I think it's important to know it's not over until it's over. And that was advice I got from Paul just in general weeks ago, was remember Tuesday night is not the end all always. I didn't see it going this way. I think so it's important for people to still continue to watch and wait. Second thing is I have not personally spoken to any of my opponents in this last week. So anything that's floating around is just made up. I commend anyone who's willing to run for any race, county, city, any sort of government race. You're putting yourself out there. And I think that's something to be commended about. And then lastly is I find it most interesting in Okaloosa County, our charter states that if there is a tie, because this has been asked of me a lot, if there is a tie, then it is a game of chance. And so we can roll dice, we can flip a coin, we can pull a straw, we can split a deck of cards. And that has happened here in Destin City Council, was my understanding years ago. And so it could get even more tricky as the weekend goes on.
What is your preferred game of chance?
I don't know. I mean, I'm a little old school. I'd probably say flip a coin.
Flip a coin?
I don't want to draw a straw.
We had that earlier in Niceville this year, and that was wildly interesting. So I would say be careful what you wish for.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like at this point I'm buckled up for whatever's coming.
Right on. Well, Keri Pitzer is a candidate for District 3 County Commissioner here in Okaloosa County. She is currently, according to the numbers from the Supervisor of Elections Office, 13 votes down on Sherry Cox, who's the leader. We're going to try and get a hold of Miss Cox, but have so far been unsuccessful. If you're watching this live, if you're not watching this live, we may have gotten a hold of her. So check out our various properties, everything from Facebook, YouTube, to our newsletter, midbaynews.com/newsletter, or just check our website, midbaynews.com. We'll see all you guys soon.
Thank you.